Looks like you're going to the Shadow Realm.
Since I was a kid, I wanted to play the most violent video game. I would hit Blockbuster wanting the age rating to have a small paragraph about the absolute debauchery I was about to partake in.
Jesus Christ.
The PS2 had a selection of extremely creative games: The Punisher, Judge Dredd vs. Death, Soldier of Fortune, State of Emergency, and The Suffering, to name a few. Being 10 years old and watching morally black violence of epic proportion on screen filled my little heart with enough dopamine to make an H-addict look like a beer drinker.
Nice.
In turn, looking back, I found that violence in video games just makes it more fun, and by fun, I mean a physical reaction from the enemy character on screen from the player attacking them. There's nothing worse for me than shooting something in any video game and they play out a death animation that's repeated in 5 different ways throughout the whole experience. It's like going on a roller coaster with no drops, and that doesn't happen, and it shouldn't happen in video games. Through the years, I've carried this viewpoint, but with more renaissance, so your themes can really drive home the violence in which you are displaying. Call of Duty can be a hit or miss. World at War and Black Ops 1 got this aspect right of showing the horrors of frontline combat whilst incorporating that action movie hero feeling it's so well known for.
Who are you people? What do you want from me?
We want the numbers, Mason. That's all we've ever wanted.
But now, in retrospective, I'm 25 and I want what I'm playing to look absolutely so uncanny close to real life and the sound to be like I'm right there, because I want that sweet dopamine hit, and with the amount of money I've spent on my gaming setup, I slap my veins and hope a gaming company can give me that hit. Yes, that's my second heroin joke, and no, I don't use drugs. I played Worms a lot as a child with couch co-op. One controller with the game of Worms 4 Mayhem pushing the franchise over into a 3D space, which made me spend many sleepovers with 4 friends, throwing holy hand grenades and making the 3D rendered environment fall apart. The publishers of that game was Team 17, and Team 17 also have published what I can only describe as one of the most accurate descriptions of being in frontline infantry.
I joined to make recruitment films.
Well, you know where you're gonna get good footage, don't you?
Ooh, tell me.
Frontline infantry!
My point here is all of the above comes full circle, with hell let loose.
I've done 10% and still not as fuck.
You literally fucking ruined the hottest cross-map headshot. Well, he's not going home. The more I play of this game, the more I realize that my inner child was on the right track of reactionary gameplay. With Hell Let Loose, less is more. 99% of the time you'll be shooting at something in hopes that it dies, and for whatever reason, this is massively more satisfying than anything a modern cycled yearly or bi-yearly shooter has to offer. A real-time strategy game with hardcore realism is what on the surface describes Hell Let Loose, but to get your money's worth, you need to get down and drown in it, and stop sticking your Warzone breathing holes above it. This game requires you to go deep and to make sure that you know what you're doing, and once you get the hang of it, ultimately it is extremely satisfying, horrifying, and a violent experience that any shooter fan with a brain should get their hands on.
On their eyes. Heard a shot.
Dropped one.
Nice.
One bullet will put something down depending on caliber and distance. Tanks turn people to red mist, and artillery is now my favorite genre of music. Again, this is all surface level description, and getting the handle on what you're playing takes time. And you'll need a bit of time, because some games can last up to an hour and a half or 5 minutes, depending on how terrible your team's communication is. Speaking of communication, it's the name of the game, and it starts from the top in an entirely player-driven order-based system. Commander oversees the officers, and officers oversee their squads. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, etc. Then the individual within the squads, listed as Rifleman, which is your on-the-go run-of-the-mill, which pushes the lines and pumps numbers at the enemy. Assault, which uses semi-auto rifles and grenades for mid-range and trench-style combat. Automatic assault, which can be detrimental for pushing the enemy out of zones and laying down fast suppressive fire. STGs, Thompsons, PPSH, things that would be loud and hurt a lot to be on the receiving end. Medic, which is self-explanatory, runs with low ammo count and has morphine, which he'll hit you with and put you back in the fight, as long as you haven't been shot in the head or turned into luncheon meat. Machine Gunner, which is one of my favorite classes, especially if I'm German, and that's self-explanatory. Engineer, which can build an assortment of different defenses for protecting capture points against advancing enemy troops. A good engineer has the ability to help turn the tide of the battle with the right squad. And then finally, support and anti-tank. I don't really use these, but support is detrimental to succeeding as a good squad and to the overall battle on the field. Being able to provide materials to the engineer and other classes to build defenses and other things as such. Anti-tank, which can be fun if you're running with an assault class to protect you. Hitting a tank in the right spot or getting up close and personal with a satchel charge is always satisfying and exhilarating. This is a very basic overlook of what you have installed, and mastering any of these classes takes time, good communication, and a bit of luck. I'm actually going full Rambo now.
You might have to.
Holy fuck!
And that's without me going into artillery, tank crew, or the sniper team. Jumping into a game, you start at any corresponding spawn point marked as a little green flag on the map. The officer class can place outposts, which is a squad-based spawn point, versus the garrison, which takes supplies to use, and thus the entire team of 50 players can spawn on. A strategically placed Gary can turn the tide of the battle or create a complete massacre upon spawning in, depending on how poor the communication is.
Moral. War crime this. Code of conduct that.
The moment-to-moment gameplay can either be the player running for 50 kilometers and not understanding how the fuck anyone plays this piece of shit, or, especially if you're super green to the game, talking to your squad mates. Hell Let Loose has some of the most non-toxic communities I've ever experienced in gaming. Everyone is usually up for a laugh, and veterans are extremely open on teaching you about the game. Jumping online and watching tutorials really is half of the battle, but actually talking to people gets you to truly learn and makes for a really rewarding experience. Once you get the gist of things and understand basic orders and how to win the game, it becomes clear it's actually more real-time strategy than an FPS. But yeah, it's strategy, but going over what I said at the beginning of this video, what I really like about this, the shooting stuff. Being the Americans, you would think the first thing to do would be a rifleman and pick up an M1 Garand. Sure, it's fun, but imagine the M1 Garand fully automatic. That's actually called the BAR, and if firing in full auto is your thing, you're not going to hit anything, but you'll scare the crap out of whoever is down sights, as the weapon uses the same rounds as the M1 and is louder than artillery. With the Germans, I found myself just wanting to unlock the MG42. If you stick with its retarded older brother, the MG34, you'll unlock it at level 3. This game has the single best representation of what it feels like to be pinned down by an MG42, but what's even cooler is when you're behind the trigger end. There's a reason it was nicknamed Hitler's Buzzsaw, and Omaha Beach makes an appearance on this map rotation. It's pretty fucking grim. The Russians had entered the chat recently with an update, and the anti-tank rifle is like shooting a 9mm at a juggernaut. Yes, if you shoot it in the right place it's effective, but the most fun I've had was ripping people in two with it at a distance. Don't get me started on the piece of shit machine gunner class either. The DP-28 is not pinning anyone down with its fire rate. However, the top mounted plate mag looks pretty cool. All that said, at the end of the day, all I can say is that everything sounds fucking cool, everything looks fucking cool, and you should pick this shit up. It does take some time to get into. I'm pretty sure I made it nice and clear there, but hey, it's not that expensive. Just jump on PSN or Steam Store and get a couple of your mates to download it, and yeah, I mean, you can really fucking enjoy yourself here. I mean, I know that I've got a lot of my friends to tee up on this game, and they all either turn around and going, why the fuck are you making me play this, or this is the best thing I've ever played. So, all in all, Hell Let Loose is definitely worth your time. Thank you so much for watching. This wasn't a short review or a long review. I just wanted to talk about this game kind of openly and candidly in hopes that more people play it, because so much love and attention to detail has been put into this, and I feel like everything these days is just kind of rollover microtransaction BS, you know, Call of Duty, Battlefield, yada yada. Not to say that those games are bad, but this kind of takes more time to get into and you have to use your brain a bit, so I really enjoy it. So yeah, thanks for watching.